No daughter of mine dates women, my father roared, throwing my belongings into the snow. The family cheered him on. On New Year's Day, they discovered I'd been the mystery shareholder who owned 60% of the family restaurant. Happy unemployment, everyone. The snow was coming down hard as my father hurled my laptop bag into the front yard, followed by garbage bags stuffed with my clothes. My mother stood in the doorway, stone-faced, while my brothers Marcus and Tony laughed from the living room window. Extended family members, aunts, uncles, cousins who'd come for our traditional Christmas Eve dinner, watched like it was entertainment. You brought that woman into my house, Dad continued, his face purple with rage. On Christmas Eve, in front of the whole family. Her name is Sarah, I said quietly, wrapping my coat tighter, and she's my girlfriend. Not anymore. He threw another bag, this one splitting open and spilling my belongings across the snow-covered lawn. You're no daughter of mine. Get out. Don't ever come back. Aunt Rosa clutched her pearls dramatically. I always knew something was wrong with her. Too focused on business. Never dated any of those nice boys we introduced. The family curse. Uncle Sal muttered. We should have seen the signs. Sarah stood next to her car, tears streaming down her face. Alex, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have come. This is my fault. No. I cut her off, beginning to gather my scattered belongings. This was going to happen eventually. At least now I know where I stand. My mother finally spoke. Alexandra, if you leave with her, you're dead to this family. No inheritance, no job at the restaurant, nothing. I almost laughed. The restaurant, Russo's Italian kitchen, the family's pride and joy for 3 generations. What they didn't know was that it was only still standing because of me. Fine, I said, shoving the last of my things into Sarah's car. Merry Christmas to you too. As we drove away, I saw my younger cousin Mia watching from an upstairs window. She gave me a small wave, quickly hiding when Uncle Sal looked up. At least one person would miss me. Where will you go? Sarah asked, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. Your place, if that's okay. I need to make some calls. On Christmas Eve? Especially on Christmas Eve. What my family didn't know, had never bothered to learn, was that I hadn't just worked at Russo's for the past 8 years. I'd saved it, multiple times. When I started in the kitchen at 16, the restaurant was bleeding money. My father and uncles ran it like their personal clubhouse, giving away free meals to friends, refusing to modernize, keeping terrible employees because they were family. By the time I graduated with my business degree, we were 3 months from bankruptcy. That's when I met Mrs. Chen. She was a regular customer, a quiet woman who always sat alone in the corner booth, always ordered the same thing, linguine pescatori and a glass of house red. One night, as I was serving her, we were too broke for proper waitstaff. She asked me about the for sale sign in the window. Family business? She'd guessed. Let me guess, the older generation won't adapt, the younger generation doesn't care, and you're caught in the middle trying to save something that nobody else values. She'd read the situation perfectly. I invest in potential, she'd said, handing me a business card. Not just businesses, people. You have potential. With Mrs. Chen's backing, I formed an anonymous LLC, Phoenix Holdings. Over the next 5 years, I quietly bought out family members who wanted cash for their shares. Uncle Pete for his gambling debts, Cousin Frank for his divorce, Aunt Maria for her mortgage. They never asked who the buyer was, just grabbed the money and ran. By last Christmas, Phoenix Holdings owned 60% of Russo's. I ran the actual operations while my father played owner, never realizing he only controlled 15%. The other 25% was scattered among family members who showed up once a year for their dividend checks. I'd modernized everything, new POS systems, online ordering, social media marketing, ghost kitchens for delivery. Revenue had increased 400% in 5 years. The family thought it was a miracle, or maybe just the inevitable result of their superior recipes. They never noticed that their traditional restaurant now ran on systems I'd implemented at 3 a.m. while they slept. From Sarah's apartment, I made 3 calls, first to my lawyer, then to Mrs. Chen, and finally to my assistant manager, Roberto, the only employee who knew the truth about the ownership. They really threw you out? Roberto asked, shocked. On Christmas Eve? They did me a favor, I replied. Can you handle the restaurant for the next week? Of course, but what about New Year's? Your family always does that big party. Oh, they'll have a party all right, just not the one they're expecting. The week between Christmas and New Year's was quiet. My phone stayed silent, no family members reached out. I saw the Facebook posts, though, my mother playing the martyr, posting about children who break their parents' hearts, my brothers making jokes about me being confused, Aunt Rosa sharing articles about Pray the Gay Away camps. I spent the week with Sarah's family. They welcomed me like I'd always belonged there. Her mother teaching me to make Korean dishes for their New Year's celebration. Her father sharing stories about coming to America with nothing and building his own business. They understood sacrifice. They understood choosing love over approval. On New Year's Eve day, I sent the email to all Russo's Italian Kitchen shareholders. From Phoenix Holdings LLC, majority owner, Emergency Shareholders Meeting, January 1, 2024, 10 a.m. This email serves as notice of mandatory restructuring effective immediately. All management positions will be reviewed. All employees must reapply for their positions based on merit and performance metrics. Phoenix Holdings will be taking active control of operations pursuant to Section 15(3) of the operating agreement. Happy New Year. Alexandra Russo, Managing Director, Phoenix Holdings LLC. My phone exploded within minutes. Dad called 17 times before leaving a voicemail. What the hell is this? Phoenix Holdings? You don't own anything. This is some kind of sick joke. Marcus texted, very funny sis. Whatever prank you're pulling, cut it out. Mom went straight for guilt. How could you do this to your family? I didn't respond to any of them. Let them stew. Let them wonder. Let them feel what I'd felt standing in the snow on Christmas Eve, confused, betrayed, discarded. The next morning, January 1st, I walked into Russo's at 9:45 a.m., Sarah by my side. The parking lot was full, the entire extended family had shown up. Through the window, I could see them huddled around tables, gesturing wildly, papers scattered everywhere. Roberto met us at the door. They're losing their minds in there. Your father's been calling every lawyer in the phone book. But it's New Year's Day. Perfect timing. I smiled. Let's go. The restaurant went silent when I walked in. 23 members of the Russo family, all staring at me like I'd risen from the dead. You, my father growled, you're behind this? This is illegal. You can't. Actually, I can. I set my briefcase on the bar. For the past 5 years, I've been purchasing shares in Russo's through Phoenix Holdings. Every time one of you needed quick cash, you sold to an anonymous investor. That was me. But you were disowned. Uncle Sal sputtered. You can't own family property. I bought those shares years before you threw me out. I corrected. And even if I hadn't, there's no legal requirement that family businesses stay in the family. Just tradition. The same tradition that says daughters can't love daughters, right? I pulled out the ownership documents. Let's review. I own 60%. Dad, you have 15%. The rest of you split 25%. According to our operating agreement, which you all signed but never read, the majority shareholder has full operational control. This is betrayal, my mother cried. We fed you. We raised you. We gave you everything. You threw me out on Christmas Eve for loving a woman. I reminded her. You said I was dead to this family. Well, dead people can't betray anyone, can they? Marcus stood up, trying to look intimidating. We'll fight this. We'll sue. With what money? I asked. The restaurant accounts are frozen pending restructuring. Your salaries are suspended effective immediately. And that house you all live in? The one titled to the restaurant as a business property for tax purposes? That's under review too. The color drained from multiple faces as they realized how intertwined their lives were with the restaurant. However, I continued, I'm not unreasonable. Anyone who wants to continue working here is welcome to apply for their position. You'll be evaluated on merit, not blood. Roberto here will be conducting interviews. Roberto? Tony sneered. The dishwasher? The man with an MBA who's been running your restaurant while you played poker in the back room. I corrected. The man who increased efficiency by 35% while you were sampling the wine inventory. Yes, that Roberto. Aunt Rosa stood up dramatically. I won't stand for this. A homosexual running our family restaurant? What would your grandfather think? Grandpa? I smiled. The man who left Italy because his own family disowned him for marrying a Jewish woman? I think he'd understand choosing love over tradition just fine. I pulled out one more document. There is another option. I'm willing to buy out all remaining shares at market value. You can take the money and walk away, start fresh somewhere else. Or you can stay and work for me. Your choice. Work for you? Dad's voice was hoarse. My own daughter? I'm not your daughter, remember? You made that very clear when you threw my laptop into the snow. I'm just the majority shareholder of your former restaurant. Sarah stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on my arm. A year ago, I would have hidden our relationship, kept her in the shadows to keep the peace. Now, I leaned into her touch, drawing strength from it. You have 48 hours to decide, I announced. The restaurant reopens January 3rd with or without you. Roberto has operational control until then. As I turned to leave, Mia, my younger cousin who'd watched from the window, spoke up. Alex, I want to apply for a job, any job. I'll wash dishes, bus tables, whatever. Her father, Uncle Sal, grabbed her arm. You will not. I'm 18, she said quietly, and I'm gay too, been hiding it for years, watching how you all treated Alex, but I'm done hiding. The room erupted. Rosa fainted dramatically. Sal started yelling about contagion and corruption. My parents turned their fury on me as parents, blaming them for raising another deviant. You're hired, I told Mia over the chaos. Assistant manager training program. Roberto will get you started, but she has no experience. Someone shouted. Neither did I when I started fixing this place, I reminded them. Turns out, desperation and discrimination are excellent teachers. I left them there, arguing and accusing each other. Sarah and I sat in her car for a moment, processing everything. You okay? She asked. You know what? I am. For the first time in my life, I'm not carrying their approval on my shoulders. It's liberating. The next 48 hours were a tsunami of family drama. Cousins calling to negotiate, aunts trying emotional manipulation. My mother even showed up at Sarah's apartment, alternating between tears and threats. You're destroying our family, she wept. No, Mom, I'm saving the business you all took for granted. The family destroyed itself the moment it chose hate over love. In the end, most of them took the buyout. My parents, uncles, and several cousins decided cash was better than working under the lesbian they'd disowned. Only a handful stayed, Mia, of course, and surprisingly, Marcus's wife Lisa, who'd apparently been hiding her own problems with the family's toxic dynamics. I'm staying for my kids, Lisa told me privately. I want them to see that families can change, can do better, that love matters more than outdated traditions. The restaurant reopened on January 3rd with a streamlined staff and renewed energy. Roberto implemented systems he'd been proposing for years. Mia brought in her friends, a diverse, eager generation ready to work. Lisa managed the front of house with an efficiency my mother never had. And the customers? They never noticed the family drama. Food came out faster, service improved, and our Yelp reviews hit 5 stars for the first time ever. 6 months later, Russo's Italian kitchen was thriving like never before. We'd opened a second location and were planning a third. The old guard, my parents, aunts, uncles, had formed their own restaurant across town, Original Russo's. It closed within 3 months. Turns out, hate isn't a sustainable business model. My father tried to reconcile once, showing up during the dinner rush with flowers. Alexandra, Principessa, I was wrong. Come home, all is forgiven. What's forgiven? I asked. My success? My sexuality? Or just the fact that I own what you thought was yours? He couldn't answer. He just stood there, flowers wilting in his hands, finally understanding that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt with apologies and old nicknames. You're welcome to make a reservation, I told him. We're booked through next month, but I'm sure we can fit you in eventually, just like any other customer. He left without another word. That Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after they threw me out, Sarah and I hosted dinner at the restaurant, not for the family who'd discarded me, but for the family I'd chosen, Roberto and his partner, Mia and her girlfriend, Lisa and her kids, Mrs. Chen, who still ordered the same meal but now got it for free, and a dozen employees who'd become more than staff. We toasted to new beginnings, to chosen families, to the courage to be yourself even when it costs everything. The snow fell outside, but inside was warmth, acceptance, and the kind of love that doesn't come with conditions. Think they're watching? Sarah asked, gesturing toward the window where a familiar figure stood in the shadows. I recognized my mother's coat, the way she hunched against the cold. Part of me wanted to invite her in, but a bigger part remembered standing in similar cold, begging for acceptance that never came. Probably, I said, turning back to our celebration, but that's not my problem anymore. The figure eventually walked away, disappearing into the snowy night. I didn't watch her go. I was too busy living the life they'd tried to deny me, successful, loved, and finally, unapologetically myself. They threw me out on Christmas Eve because I loved a woman. In return, I took everything they'd built and made it better, not out of revenge, but out of necessity, because sometimes the only way to save something is to take it away from those who don't value it. The restaurant still bears the Russo name, but it stands for something different now. Not just tradition and family blood, but innovation and chosen bonds. Not just tolerance, but celebration. Not just surviving, but thriving. Every Christmas Eve, we close early and host a free dinner for LGBTQ+ youth who've been rejected by their families. We serve them my grandmother's recipes, The ones my family thought I didn't deserve to inherit. We give them warmth on the coldest night, acceptance when they need it most. My father was right about one thing, I'm not his daughter anymore. I'm something better, myself, fully, proudly, successfully myself. And that's the best gift I ever gave myself for Christmas.